What's going on, SML? It is once again the still too early mock draft. We should have should have the team draft order here in about 6 days on the 13th. But we figure we'll do one more mock draft. And today I've got a special guest. Finz is here. What's going on, Finz?
Not much, buddy. Good to be back on one of these shows.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. And I think this is one of the more fun ones, anyways. The mock draft, and we've both done our mocks, and now we get a chance to compare them. So without any further ado, let's jump into pick one. And just for everybody watching, the way we did the draft order, we've already got last season's evals out, and we see the totals. So kind of based on where I think the totals are going to fall for this last season, I adjusted some. QP missing half the season probably drops him at least 1 point behind the guys that he was tied with. So I moved him down to the bottom. NYT had a couple forced wins, dropped him below Matt and Finz. And I think Tiny jumps Grams because there was only like 1 point or so, maybe 2 points separating them. Anything else, I just kind of went with whatever order it was in on the sheet. So we'll see. This could be a different order, but I think it'll be close enough that we might get some picks right. So without any further ado, who do you have at number one, Finz?
Uh, yeah, I got Prime going Colts. I don't believe those smoke screens at all. I think with how Jonathan Taylor's looking and that team, I think he's going Colts.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way if he's taken the Colts in the past every year, there's no way he passes on them with Stephon Gilmore, Jonathan Taylor. They got some rookies in the draft that look like they're going to be fun. Maybe they're not going to be great Colts in real life, but the tight end especially should be fun in Madden. And I think there's no way he passes on the Colts here, especially if there's a chance that Faz is going to go with the Jaguars and maybe make that a fun cycle rivalry.
Yeah, absolutely. And Leonard should be a beast this edition too, because he wasn't
Yeah,
he underrated last version
yeah, I think he
or
was. I
in
think he got a
22.
boost going into this one. So I
Yeah,
don't.
he keeps on posting those tweets about how his defensive metrics have been incredible, so he should be a beast to start.
Yeah, I'd expect him to be better and probably a superstar to start. So um, if you're going to take the Colts when they're bad, you might as well take them when they're good. So I expect him to take
Yeah,
the
no
Colts.
doubt.
So at number two, I've got Woods. Who do you have Woods taken?
I think he's going to run it back. We've seen him run it back in the past, and that Bills team is better than to start last year. So I think he's going Bills.
Yeah, I've got him taking the Commanders. I just think I don't know. I've seen him run it like you said, run it back in the past with the Browns. Um, but I think he might want to try something different. The Commanders, especially with Sam Howell looking like he's at least usable to where he can be your quarterback of the cycle. You're just gonna have to develop a little bit. I I just don't see him running it back. It's not like the Bills are his favorite team. I know he said the Browns were, I think, his son's favorite team or something, so he stayed with them. But he does seem to have this little love affair with Josh Allen. He's had him the last two cycles by the end of the cycle, so I guess we'll see if he sticks with the Bills. But I got him going Commanders for that defensive line. That
I
puts
don't think
Mike.
he.
What's that?
I was just going to say I don't think he can go wrong with either pick,
Yeah.
but yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
So with that being said, I got Mike at number three, and who do we have Mike taking?
I got Mike going Washington football team.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. Like you said earlier before we started recording, he probably should have taken him this cycle, and I think he may regret that after the way the Dolphin cycle ended up. But for him, I don't have them there, and I started with him taking the Eagles, so I'm gonna finish with him taking the Eagles. I think that team just makes too much sense. So many picks. Mike likes his draft picks, but that Eagles team doesn't even need draft picks. They've got guys at every position. Maybe you add a linebacker. If you don't like Hurts, you can add a quarterback. But I think that's a great pick for Mike. We'll see if he goes with the Eagles.
Yeah, again, these early picks, and this is obviously stating, the obvious, but these early picks it's really interesting to see where these teams go because it's just gonna like people are gonna chase easy wins or what they perceive easy wins and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see where everyone goes. And this Washington football team, like I said before, they're stacked, and
Yeah.
with Mike's new job and him being a little bit busier, especially to start the cycle with Primer too. he might want a team that's kind of already established. So that's why I went with football team for him.
I could see that. One thing I wonder though, if and not like he could fall too much further. I mean, he was picking in the top half of the draft every year, but if he's busier, do you think maybe he picks a team that has, only one or two needs, something like I guess the Commanders or the Eagles. Eagles having two draft picks, you don't really need anything, but if you don't expect to be able to give, maybe as much effort as normal, and expect a bad draft pick, and he could really, you get that number one pick with the Eagles. That team's looking really good.
Yeah, very true, especially with 8 seasons to build them too, right?
Yep. But that's going to be number 3. So number 4, that's where I have myself picking. And we both, it looks like, picked the Jets for that one.
Absolutely.
I think that's probably going to be the correct pick. The only other team I really see could be the Lions. And it's just going to come down to, I think, for me, what Zach Wilson looks like. If it looks like they didn't do him too bad, then I'll probably stick with the Jets. But got 98 speed for Jamison Williams, and then Aiden Hutchinson's probably going to be a superstar at least. So the Lions have that dark horse ability, especially with the extra picks if Goff is okay. But I think right now it's pretty heavily Jets.
Yeah, and you may regret that depending on who gets the Rams.
Yeah.
If it's someone who's struggles for wins, then that's gonna like that was me this year, right? Like Mike actually was saying, and before I went Bears, he's like, "Go Lions with all the picks, go Lions with all the picks." And I was an idiot and took the Bears, and then
No
Field,
picks.
yeah, and Field ended up taking the Rams, and we're just handing out force wins like crazy.
Yep.
And like you saw what Klink was able to do with that team. So, but yeah, that Jets team is incredible to start. And like I said just before, with 8 seasons to build that team, I'm not looking forward to playing that team if I get the Dolphins.
Yeah, absolutely. They could be pretty nasty, but so could the Lions. So we'll see. At pick 5, this is where I think the draft kind of gets interesting for me. I feel pretty confident in those first 4 picks. Maybe Eagles, Commanders flip flop, or we see the Bills in there somewhere. But for the most part, I feel like those were pretty easy. Next up, we got Matt. I've got Matt taking the Packers. I have him passing on the Seahawks. And it looks like you have him taking the Seahawks. You think he's going to stick with the Seahawks?
I do. I think the only thing kind of holding him back from the Seahawks is a quarterback position.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a couple quarterbacks that are going to be available. And I think, they got a rookie running back, right, who looks pretty solid.
Yeah.
And DK, and that defense is okay on the back end. And Matt's a good defensive player anyway, so he can build that defense no problem. I think he hasn't had the Seahawks in the SML, I don't believe. So I think this is the season he takes him to start.
Yeah, I like the Seahawks team. I liked them a lot early before we saw the ratings come out. And maybe he likes them. I know he's talking about one of the corners. But I feel like even with 2 picks, they just still need so much. And with Matt, he's talked about scheduling and, division. That's important to him. I don't know if with both of these teams, he'd be jumping into an empty division. According to our mock draft, picking 5, the odds are he's going to be in an empty division anyway. But I think he's going to take the Packers. Like you said, he's a defensive player. Packers already have a defense that's young and in place. They have a couple older pieces, but they have a lot of youth in there, especially in the secondary. So I think he's going to take the Packers. He'll let that defense kind of develop. He's got Aaron Rodgers already going to come in, superstar or X Factor, whatever. And then you have Jordan Love as a replacement as soon as Rodgers steps aside. So I just think it's going to be too good of a team to pass up, especially fitting his play style.
I think everything you said there is bang on. The one thing with Matt, though, is Matt, if someone says they're going to take a team, Matt won't take them. Like he's like very chivalrous when it comes to that. So because the guy that I said is going to take the Packers, who we'll reveal soon, has said multiple times in chat that he wants him, I think Matt is going to kind of like, okay, I'm not going to take them, and he's going to go with his heart over his head, which he should take the Packers.
Okay. Let's go to number 5 or 6 rather. 6 is you, and we both agree you're taking the Dolphins. Um, Obviously, favorite team's fairly set on offense, depending on what you think about Tua. But you have those 2 picks, and defense really isn't that bad. What is there really any other team that you're kind of considering here?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few teams. I if I'm being honest with you, I'm really flip flopping, because I've said Cards all along.
Yeah.
Um, the and Tua scares the crap out of me. I'm just, as of right now, I'm sticking with Dolphins. I need to see if the new passing system will have an effect on throw power. I mean, 99 speed Tyreek Hill, 97 speed Jalen Waddle is going to be really hard to pass that. Plus, you got
Yeah.
Mostert. That defense is pretty solid. You got the picks. But I don't need to throw deep,
Yeah.
right? Like I could throw, any quarterback can throw a drag, any quarterback can throw a slant,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So it's
Except Daniel
it
Sears.
well, and I say that the quarterback can throw it, but I may throw it too late
Yeah.
or too early. So, but he can at least throw it. So as of now, I'm probably 85% Dolphins. It's going to see how it feels for me to be used to a.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why we said it's a way too early mock draft. Nobody's even got their hands on the game or the development traits or anything. But yeah, I think the Dolphins are probably a good fit, being your favorite team, and then it's not like they're hurting for players.
Right.
All right, so number 7, we've got NYT. He's been pretty vocal in chat about taking the Browns. Already changed his little icon or whatever, and we both end up falling for it. I don't know if he's going to do it or not, but we've both got him as the Browns. Uh, I think for him it's going to be, he just played as the Titans in primer for a little bit this year, and he had Derrick Henry with Freight Train. And assuming Nick Chubb gets Freight Train again and it's not completely different, I think he's gonna jump on the chance to take the Browns, and especially with that defense being young and able to be developed. And NYT, one of the guys that's pretty good at developing guys.
Absolutely. And you got Deshaun Watson at quarterback, who's probably going to start star at the very
Yep.
least. I don't think he'll have abilities, but plus you have Kareem Hunt. Like you got tradable pieces there. You have Schwartz. Like that team is just incredible to start, and I don't see how you can pass them up.
Yeah, you have a pretty much ready-made team that all you have to do is not mess them up. So I think you'll be able to do that, and it probably helps because early in the season he's probably still got his Carney season going, um, so he can kind of ride on the Browns and Nick Chubb and not fall off too much. Whereas a team that he maybe needs to make a lot of moves or get a lot of stat padding to develop, I think the Browns are a good fit for him.
Right, and don't they also have Amari Cooper now too?
They do. So you replace Jarvis Landry with Amari Cooper. So I'd say that they end up improving at the receiver position as well.
100%.
And then we have number 8, DW. This is where this one got a little interesting for me because I think DW has said he wants the Jets if they fall. More than likely, they're not falling past me. If he doesn't get the Jets, I would think the natural fit for him, being his favorite team, would be the Browns. He would just settle for them. But we have NYT taking him at 7. So the pick before DW, really, both of his teams end up off the board. And this is where we split a little bit. I haven't taken the Panthers. I know I've heard him say that he is a Baker Mayfield fan. So Mayfield going to the Panthers is nice there. The team is actually really loaded. And then on top of that, you have Matt Corral, the rookie they drafted, who looks usable, which means you now either can develop him for a year, trade away Corral for probably a first or a second. And if you don't want to go that route, you play Corral, and now you have Baker Mayfield, who's essentially a first-round pick, because it looked like they didn't even hurt him too much in the ratings.
Yeah, I have him going Cardinals. Um, like he chased. I don't know when he got his rookie quarterback. Was it season 2?
Yes.
And okay,
So him and Clink were 1 and 2, and they both took quarterbacks.
right, right. And this one he gets one of the best quarterbacks to start. And that Cardinals roster is insane.
Yeah,
Loaded everywhere.
I wonder. I mean, you had quarterback issues pre-blip, and then you got your rookie, and then post-blip you started with Justin Fields. How much how much did your quarterback struggles the first season or first pre-blip before getting your rookie? How much did that influence your pick going with the Bears and getting a guy or a team that already had a quarterback?
Oh, big time. So I made the mistake. So the first time, you know, I my struggles are well documented. I was awful. So I chased two positions in the redraft. I really wanted to go Bucks, but everyone was in my ear. Don't go back to a really stacked division
Oh
because
yeah.
Dan and Faz had already gone there. So everyone's like, "Don't go Bucks, don't go Bucks, don't Bucks." So I panicked, and so I was like, "Okay, I want a team with a good young quarterback, and I wanted a middle linebacker." So I was like, okay, Bucks have those things, but so we said the young quarterback, they had the middle linebacker. Bears had young quarterback and they had Roquan Smith. So I went there.
Yeah.
So, but the young Fields part was the key. That young quarterback to develop for the rest of the cycle was big for me.
Yeah, that's something I think at least when I'm doing this mock draft, I kind of play in if you see somebody struggling to fill a position or just really hurting somewhere, I feel like the next cycle that becomes a priority of the first thing I want to make sure I have is, a quarterback or a running back I can throw to if you're Colt. Um, like I just wonder, as somebody that struggled with a quarterback position the first half of this cycle, if that was going to influence you, and clearly you said it did with the Bears. So I could see DW absolutely taking the Cardinals for that same reason. Just get a quarterback and be done with it.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to pick nine. Pick nine, we've got Coop. Coop is just all over the place. He posted like 37 teams that are possibilities. I don't even know if his percentages added up to 100 or like 640. Uh, but he did give us the Dan Ross picture. So um,
uh,
I'm going to go with him at his word on his list. And near the top of his list, he had the Ravens. With the way the draft has fallen for my mock, I've got NYT as the Browns. I think Coop has no problem following NYT to the AFC North, and I think he takes the Ravens.
yeah, that's a solid pick. That Ravens team is great. I haven't actually fallen a few more picks here, but I have Coop going to Panthers. You just kind of outlined previous pick for DW how good that team is to start
Yeah,
with tradable pieces. Coop with that Titans team when I joined had built a really solid team, so he could turn one of those quarterbacks into some nice pieces for him to continue building that team. So I got him going to Panthers.
yeah. I think there's a few things that make teams really good, and one of them, or like to start the cycle, is one of them. If you have a second quarterback, your team is set because that everybody the first season is looking for their quarterback. Whether you have it on your roster or you don't. I mean, you look at even the teams that we've got in the top five. You got the Colts. Prime's going to need a quarterback. He's not going for Matt. He's not going to ride Matt Ryan the whole way. The Commanders are going to need a quarterback. The Eagles may need a quarterback. Um, the Packers would, but they have Jordan Love to replace Rodgers. Dolphins may need a quarterback. So I think a team that has two quarterbacks, you might as well consider it a team that has two first round picks. And and so I think the Panthers are going to. I don't see them falling any further than 9 here, where you have Coop taking them.
Yeah, they're just too stacked, and
Yeah,
that's a huge point that you just made there. Because I mean, we saw just last draft, pre and post blip, how many people were trying to draft him, right?
yeah. I mean, in any other position, I feel like you can pretty much you can get in the draft, you can get in free agency, you can take a 59 overall guy if he's got the right ratings as far as speed and change of direction. 59 overall linebacker, you can work with it and make it work. But that quarterback position, you got to get it right. And we've seen guys struggle when they don't, and the Panthers haven't too. That's a first round pick. You're gonna find somebody that's gonna give you a first for Baker Mayfield,
100%.
and if not, I'll bet the next season you get a first for Corral. So either way, you've got an extra pick somewhere in there just because you have those two. So moving on to number 10, rounding out our top 10. We went two very different directions here, but it's the two teams he's talked about. We got double rice, no bean. I haven't taken the Patriots. You haven't taken the Packers. He's said both teams are at the top of his list. So why'd you go with the Packers over the Patriots?
I that team is incredible. like you already mentioned it, the defense is so good. You got Aaron Rodgers, you got Jordan Love, you have oh, uh, they were in consideration for me for a while, but I want to get it back. I don't want to be in that division again. So, but yeah, they're just so solid start to finish.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an underrated team. I think they should probably be. Well, I mean, we both have them in the top 10, but I think they should definitely be in the top 10. Uh, as for being, though, I think he's going to take the Patriots. I just think he's, I don't know, he doesn't seem like a guy that's really worried about taking a really good team. He likes the Patriots. I know he got him after he replaced Sherm, I think. And that Patriots team was god awful. He'd already traded J.C. Jackson, who he won't have anyway because he's moved on in real life. But I think he may go with the Patriots. I think Bean is one of those guys that he kind of got a little in his feelings when people were talking about Freight Train and how it was carrying him. I mean, we saw him not long after trade Derrick Henry away. So I think he liked back when he had Damian Harris and he was making him look really good with his user running. And I think he's going to go with the Patriots to kind of get back to that kind of roots that he had.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I forgot how well he did with Damian Harris. I think I think I didn't outline this before, and I was thinking about when you said it. The NFC doesn't have prime,
Yeah.
and he's run into a lot of. Well, I mean, every time he's made the playoffs, he's faced prime, right?
Yeah,
So
every single time.
yeah. So I think he's a good player. Like I know I think you're bang on with Matt's the one that was banging that drum about him. He's not very good without Freight Train, but
Yeah.
I think he's pretty underrated, and I think he can do a lot of damage with that Packers team. Plays to his strengths too, because he's not bad defensively either. He's not like me or Monty, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked about him last night on the awards show, and Prime called him out as one of the best defensive users.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could see that, and he gets out of the AFC, maybe a little easier route to the Super Bowl or the playoffs, and so I could see the Packers. That would make sense too. And like we said, he's talked about both these teams. It's not like you're pulling the Packers out of thin air. So
yeah,
there's
for sure.
definitely a chance there. Number 11, we've got Dan. So Dan has been he started the percentages, and I know he's had the Steelers at the top. I don't even know if he's had this team, but I gave him the 49ers. I think he goes to the NFC. Just getting taken to the woodshed by Faz all cycle. He made that one Super Bowl in the first season post blip, and then he never got there again. Faz took 5 straight. Dan ended up losing to Doink. He lost to Clink. It felt like he fell off, and I'm thinking maybe he doesn't want to chase, who he perceives as the top guy. We saw him chase Prime pre-blip. He went after Faz post-blip. I think he may just take off to the NFC and take the 49ers, who I think would be a decent fit for him because he's also still got the young quarterback, but it's not a young quarterback that's bad. He'll have Trey Lance there. He's got a good offense, and then he can just build his defense.
Yeah, like my pick is boring. I haven't taken the Steelers, so I don't even want to talk about that because that's easy. I like that 49ers pick for him. That's a really interesting take because, like, you mentioned something last night where I forget exactly how it was phrased, but you said, like, it was never Dan in the NFC. It was just always Faz. And I think I was thinking about that, like, when you said just what you said there, that he wants to avoid it. That's a really good point. And you have that 49ers team is really good, and Werner is incredible, and Dan can wreak havoc with him.
Yep. I mean, the secondary is going to need a little work, but we watched him trade away A.J. Terrell this cycle and end up with a decent secondary anyway. So, and he's got, took the Falcons. He had Kyle Pitts. If he takes the 49ers here, he's got Kittle, who he ended up signing. That didn't quite work out how he thought, I think, but he gets his big tight end. He's got plenty of running backs. He went almost the whole cycle with Cordell Patterson. He doesn't care about his running back. He'll just make somebody work. And I think Deebo Samuel and then Trey Lance, Kittle, they're all going to be kind of too much for him to pass up there, and he gets out of the AFC and where You've already got primes there. I'm going to be there probably. Faz has said he's going to go there, and you got to take him at his word there. So that's 3 Super Bowl winners already there. You don't know what QP is going to do if he goes there. That's 4. I don't think Dan wants to deal with that. I think he's going to move to the 49ers or some NFC team.
Yeah, and I mentioned this in the chat last night too. And I don't think that Will Holt experiment. I think Dan has no desire to get another terrible quarterback situation.
Yeah,
So
that really set him back. I mean, you saw him say something about no bad releases in Madden 23.
right, and Trey Lance, Dan should be able to develop him now. Whether he keeps him or not, because he always trades
That's
his
true, too.
quarterbacks, is
I think
another
he may have
story.
learned from that one too.
Well, we said the same thing coming into this season, right? Because who was the Broncos quarterback that he developed and then traded?
Leveray on that was what 20? Yeah, Madden 21, right?
Yeah, he traded him to Fig, right?
Yep, he did.
And then he was just chasing a quarterback the rest of the cycle again.
Yeah, he got some guy that had a little bit of wheels, but never got to Leveray's level and never made the Super Bowl again.
Exactly. So hopefully he's learned, because this is now 2 straight cycles he's done it, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think one of the tough things, and this is obviously off the mock draft thing, but you look at the SML stats. It's tough to develop that quarterback. Like Faz got picked as the best passer in the SML, and I don't think he was in the top passing every year, at least for yards and touchdowns, to where you would get that dev bump. And I think it's because you got a lot of guys that, number one, get blown out every week, so they spam the hell out of the pass. So trying to catch up to those numbers, and EA doesn't penalize interceptions. So you throw it 50 times a game. If you get picked off 25, who cares? You're still throwing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I think Dan going with this, I'm going to take a garbage quarterback and make him good. I think those days are gone.
Yeah, that's another good point. So I tried to actively twice try to bump Fields up to superstar, and both times I was in top 7 for touchdowns.
Yep.
But I was nowhere near in yards.
Yeah,
I can't get the yards, man. It's hard for me.
Yeah, and if you're a guy like Dan who's going to win, you have to assume he's going to win the majority of his games, and probably a good portion of them aren't even going to be that close. I mean, you're only throwing for 3 quarters, if that. So it's tough to hit, like you said, those yardage numbers. You may hit your bombs for the touchdowns, or you run down there, you get your little short RPOs or whatever to get your passing touchdowns, but you just don't have the time to get the yards. And so I think maybe he's learned. We saw him trade away 2 superstar quarterbacks this cycle, and it really burned him. So, but moving on to number 12, and number 12, I think this was an easy one for both of us. Again, we're taking him at his word. Faz taking the Jaguars. I think he's got no problem going after Prime, and the Jaguars being his favorite team. You got Trevor Lawrence there. Now they had another number 1 pick this year. I think it's a team he's going to enjoy playing with, and I think he feels like he can build them into something really good as well.
Absolutely. He dominated the NFC with really no competition. Perfect season, 3 straight Super Bowls. Why not chase the GOAT, right? Yeah. Your favorite team. Yeah, this one's easy.
Yeah, I feel like, and maybe if he's in the AFC last cycle, he doesn't make 5 straight. I would hope somebody would have knocked him off at some point. But coming off 5 straight Super Bowls, there's no way you're worried about anybody chasing them or regardless. Like, why not, like you said, go after Prime? It's going to be tough to hit those 20 championships to pass him in total Simbardis. So why not go into a cycle and try and shut him out for division championships and knock him out of the playoffs every season? If he gets close to 20, he's probably going to get the boot. So get as close as you can and just make it look dominant. But that's going to be, I think, a fun rivalry to watch, because Prime is very good at adjusting, and for 2 cycles he hasn't been in Faz's conference to where they play enough to maybe get a good look at him. So I think that could be a really fun cycle long rivalry.
100%, and it'll be interesting to see the trade negotiations, how they go. Like, if Prime is actively going after someone, will Faz jump in and try to
Yeah.
undercut him, right, or vice versa, right? It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely like, of all the rivalries there could be, I think that would be the best one. And the way everything's shaping up, just not even this mock draft, just the way they've been talking in chat. Faz seems dead set on the Jaguars as long as they're there. I don't see anybody ahead of him that would take them. And Prime, obviously, pretty well set on the Colts. He's mentioned a couple other teams, but the way he ran back to the Colts after the blip made me feel like there was something he missed playing with a different team, and I think he's gonna go back to the Colts. So we're gonna get that rivalry, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
All right, so pick 13. We've got Clink, and we go a little different here, both with bird teams. I've got him taking the Falcons. You've got him taking the Eagles. I went with the Falcons. Number one, the Eagles were gone at 3. I think you're dead on. If the Eagles are there for Clink, it's a no-brainer pick. They've got the extra picks. They're young at a lot of positions, so he's got the kind of flexibility to build the team the way he wants. But I had him taking the Falcons because they were gone. I think the Falcons are probably a really underrated team, and the big reason I have him taking the Falcons is that rookie Troy Anderson. That's just a user's dream, and for a guy that got voted best user in the SML, it just seems like a perfect fit.
Yeah, and they still have Deion Jones too, right?
Yeah, they have Deion Jones and Troy Anderson, so you can sit in a 3-4 and let Deion Jones do what he wants while you user Troy Anderson and just wreak havoc.
As a guy who saw his user firsthand and probably had a big hand in him becoming best user with all those picks with Hickman to start, I don't think I threw a pick to him to his user in the last 2 seasons, but I sure threw my fair share in the first couple. Yeah, that's that Falcons team is really good. I chose the Eagles for him just for the fact that he's a really underrated team builder as well. I think with how much success he has at winning,
Mm-hmm.
he can still build a really good team. He finds those mid to late round kind of gems who he ends up building up, and because I think Hickman wasn't an early pick, and he put in the work with that guy and developed him pretty well. So you give him all those early picks to start, he's just going to be a monster.
Yeah, absolutely. I think either one of those teams are a great fit for him. And I think
Yeah.
we both have NFC teams. I think Clink is the guy, and it's been talked about on every show. I think that he's kind of one of the next guys that people think are going to get a Simbardi. You've got 5, 6 Simbardi winners that are currently in the SML, and everybody kind of has him, D Muse, maybe Doink, kind of on the outside of that grouping that's currently won the Simbardis. And I think if he goes to the NFC, he's got a real shot at kind of sneaking into the Super Bowl. And then once you get there, it's one game, and I don't think there's anybody in this league that you would say 100 out of 100 times is going to lose to anyone else. Because we've seen, even the guys that lose the most, KJ, he had Prime on the ropes at one point this cycle. So it's anybody can win any week if you don't take them serious enough. And I think going to the NFC gives him the best shot to get that. And he may be thinking that as well.
For sure.
All right, so 14 we got Meats. Your pick I like, but I had the Ravens already gone by then. I've got him taking the Cowboys. I'm assuming you have him taking the Ravens just because they're his favorite team, or did you have something else?
It was that, and the fact that just Lamar, like he I have kind of a sneaker pick here that I didn't think about. I was talking about this before. I think he could also run it back with the Chargers.
Okay.
Because he played really well with Herbert.
He did, especially the end of the cycle.
Yeah, but I think with that Ravens team is really solid from top to bottom. And I think he just, he went a cycle without kind of a running quarterback. I think he kind of regresses back to his mean and kind of goes back to, it was more for me the running quarterback type.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. And then being the Ravens' favorite team, obviously that gives them a little bit of pull anyway. They had They had a good draft. Free agency went well for them. So a lot of reasons to kind of gravitate back to your favorite team. I had him taking the Cowboys though. I know he said he doesn't like to double up on teams. Like he every cycle wants to choose something different. I don't know if he's been the Cowboys or not, but like you said, he had a lot of success with Herbert. So I think he'll go to a team that has an established quarterback where he can kind of build on that. And you get Dak Prescott there, decent receivers. You get freight train. Well, not freight train, I guess, with Zeke anymore, but he's still got a good running back in Zeke. Micah Parsons, the user, and then Diggs in the secondary. I think there's a lot of good pieces on the Cowboys, and you still keep that superstar quarterback to kind of help you continue with what looks to be an improvement in the passing game.
100%. And Meats isn't a guy that shies away from taking someone's team.
No,
Like
absolutely not.
he'll gladly take it in front of you. But yeah, I never even thought of Cowboys for Meats. That's a good fit for him.
Yeah, I actually just thought of it this morning when I'm going through my list trying to make it. I was like, let's change this up and see what else would fit. I think I had him with the 49ers last mock draft, but I think the Cowboys kind of make sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if the Ravens are there, I agree with you. I think he goes back there. You saw him post that graphic about most division championships. If you have a chance to be in a division with NYT, I don't know who would take the Browns at that point. Maybe DW gets the Browns. If he comes in as the Ravens, he's got to think it's winnable, and better than some of these other divisions where we'll see Prime and Faz doubled up, maybe Dan and somebody else somewhere else doubled up. I think you could see him going back to the Ravens.
Was that the graphic where Meats was in the leaderboard for most division titles? It's really rare to see Meats post a graphic with him in successful situations.
Yeah, exactly. He was second, I think, with 20.
Man,
And
never see that from Meats.
yeah. So 15th pick, we got Doink. I've got him taking the Bills. I think he's mentioned a couple times that if they were there, he'd have a hard time passing on them. You've got him taking the Lions. I'm kind of surprised by that. What were you thinking with the Lions there for Doink?
Just a lot. Like, there's a lot of good. Like, we've talked about this already. That team is really solid, and I think especially with the draft capital that they have, I think Doink really enjoyed as much as he loves a good quarterback. He also loves to building teams.
Yeah.
Like he's probably one of the more active traders in the league.
Yep.
He's always out there in front trying to improve his team. So I think starting off with all the young pieces that they have, plus the draft picks, I don't think he would pass them up if they felt in there. Plus, with me having DNRB as Packers, those two Primer Posse guys together in the same division, I think is something they're looking forward to as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And had I not had Matt taking the Packers, and I would have probably given them to Rice. And I think you make perfect sense there with them trying to be in the same division. I would have gone with the Vikings because I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about the Vikings in such a positive light as he does. But but I could see the Lions too because he does seem to like to kind of wheel and deal and build his team. And I think if the Vikings are his favorite team and he does like them, it would be a lot tougher to kind of part with some of those guys that maybe you have some type of attachment to that really isn't helping your team as much.
Yeah, and if the mock goes your way and the Bills fall this far, that's criminal.
Oh, absolutely. 15 for the Bills is nuts. Yeah, I could see them fitting in a couple other places, but 15, I don't think they fall past him.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so 16, and that's at the halfway point of the draft. We've got QP. You've got him taking the Chargers, obviously favorite team. I've got him taking the Cardinals. I think he may not want to be in the AFC either with everybody there, especially Faz is over there. I think he may try to go to the NFC where it looks like it's shaping up to be an easier path to the Super Bowl, and then he can knock out 5 Super Bowls like Faz did this year.
Yeah, the thing I haven't taken the Chargers, and again with my Dan pick is kind of boring. I think the way that his path to the Chargers is going to be based on Herbert's abilities.
Yeah.
If Herbert comes out of the gate OP, I think he'll chase Herbert and deal with the fact that this team's already stacked to the gills and not chase that rebuild because he loves rebuilding teams as well. Like that Lions team. I mean, it's mythical at this point what he did with that Lions team. So I think it's going to be dependent on the abilities that Herbert gets.
Yeah, he had said something in chat. It was a while ago. He said something about he wants to take the Chargers, and then he had talked about, well, I didn't really like Lamar this year because I didn't have anything to do with my offense. It was all pre-built. And then he said, but if the Cardinals are there, I'm going to take them. And I even asked him. I said, you just said you wanted to rebuild, and you're going to take one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And then his reply was, I want to win. So it kind of makes me think if the Chargers, even if they're there, if it looks like it's going to be a really difficult path to the Super Bowl, maybe he takes that Cardinals team and just takes the easier path. The Cardinals offense could probably use a couple pieces. I mean, you have Rondale Moore, you have Hopkins, but Hopkins is getting a little older. Hollywood Brown he'd get to reunite with. I don't feel like it's the team that would fit the way he says he wants to play as far as rebuilding, but it definitely would be one of the top teams in the NFC right off the bat, and then he would be the clear favorite.
Yeah, QP with either of these teams is not going to be fun to play.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so moving on then, we'll go to pick 17. And pick 17, I don't even know who I have there, but we have D-Muse. Oh, the easiest pick probably in the draft.
Yeah, it's got to be Saints.
It's the Saints, right? He's had him snatched right before him twice. I don't think there's any way he gets it other than if maybe he just immediately figures somebody else is going to take him just because that's the way it always works out, and he accidentally puts in the wrong team name. But I think
the only one I can see. Sorry, I just cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the only one I can see doing it, and it's not right before him, is Coop. Just because Coop loves chaos.
He does. I think Coop picking at 9 is probably too far away for him to consider it chaos enough.
We're talking about the man who let Tyreek Hill walk. Nothing's off the table.
I just feel like there's too much time between Coop and D-Muse. He wouldn't see it as enough. I think the one that he would really get is probably either Dan with the Steelers or Faz with the Jags right there before them.
Yeah,
or maybe
true.
even Meats. If he thinks Meats is going to take the Ravens, I could see him taking the Ravens at 9. D-Muse would just have too much time to scramble and pick a different team.
Yeah.
But maybe we see Coop miss his pick and then jump back in right before D-Muse or something.
I think he said he was going to miss the selection show.
He did say he was going to miss it, yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, I'll be interested to hear what his list is. And that means we're going to move to 18. 18 is Field. This is a little tougher. I haven't taken the Bengals. You haven't taken the Chiefs. I have a feeling we have them taking those teams for similar reasons. I picked the Bengals, ready-made team, especially offensively. Field, a guy that's constantly having to worry about missing the offseason, with the draft or free agency. I think for him, he's not going to take a project team because he doesn't know if he's going to be there to make the picks anyway. So I think the Bengals having Joe Burrow, Mixon, Jamar Chase, I think they're young, they're good, and I think that's a perfect fit for him.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It was what team is going to be great out of the box that, he won't have to worry about too much. So that's why I went the Chiefs with Mahomes. They have pieces on the back end too. They're not as good as I think they were last year. They don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. They don't have Honey Badger.
Yeah.
But they're still a really solid team. So, yeah, I have nothing more to say. Like, you hit the nail on the head. It's just a ready-made team.
Yeah. And then we have 19, Pauly. And this is where I have the Chiefs going. You've got the Bucks. Both good teams. I had the Bucks on my board for him, but I don't know if he wants to join with D-Muse in the South there and Clink. The team I thought was a perfect fit for him because I think he's going to go where he thinks he can win easily. I had that as the Giants, but he just used the Giants this year. and I didn't figure he'd double up. So I had him going with the Chiefs just because same reason as with Field. This is a ready-made team out of the box. So I think he said, I don't know how many times, that he's the only guy with a normal quarterback in the league, and I think maybe he sees that X factor there and he just jumps to Mahomes.
Yeah, it's funny actually because I had him as the Chiefs as well, and then looking at the divisions, when I put QP at the Chargers, I flopped him in Fields, and I put him as the Bucks because for me he's got D-Muse and he's got Coop
Yeah.
in that division right now, and I think he feels he can hang with D-Muse, and he feels he's going to beat Coop. So, with Brady, that team's already loaded. To me, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah. All right. 20 then is our next pick, and that's going to be Tiny. I had him taking the Titans. I think picking 20, and maybe there are some options, like you have him taking the 49ers here. I just think it'll be tough to pass up on the Titans. It's his favorite team. But Prime and Faz in that division does make me question that pick. But you went with 49ers. It's kind of a repeat of this cycle.
Yeah, Tiny is a guy who he's the rare kind of owner who, is kind of like me, doesn't win much, but also will run from competition. Mm-hmm. So I think he sees Faz and Prime, just like you said, in that division. And he is that kid in that GIF that I always post who's cowering in a corner, screaming with his hand up, like, please no. So I think he sees, I don't think he fears Matt. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he fears DW at this point. And, that 49ers team's solid. He's familiar with it. So I think he goes there.
Yeah, and two things. I mean, looking at your mock with Matt as the Seahawks started at a severe disadvantage. They're not on the talent level of the Cardinals or the 49ers or even the Rams for that matter.
Yep.
So there he kind of starts. He gets a little head start right there. And then I think he regrets not taking that deal for Trey Lance to the Colts, the prime offer where he basically gave him half his roster and all his picks. And I wonder if, Tiny C and Prime getting Matt Ryan there going to still need a quarterback. Maybe he's thinking, I can probably kind of right that wrong and trade Trey Lance and get that haul again. Now, whether or not he gets those players are there as good as they were this cycle might remain to be seen. But I could see something like that where he kind of goes back and fixes that.
That's a good point. I forgot about that. Yeah, I should have taken that deal too with Justin Fields.
Yeah, that was a pretty solid deal.
That was a massive offer, yeah.
So that's going to bring us to 21. 21 is Graham's. You've got the Cowboys falling to him, which is, again, one of the easiest picks in the draft if that falls that way since he's been them as long as I've been here. I've got him taking the Steelers, though, if he can't get them. I just thought this was a good division for him. He gets NYT, he gets Coop, and he gets Field. So Graham's very easily could get back to where he was on that graphic as well for division titles in a division that looks like that. And I think the Steelers, depending on what you think of Kenny Pickett, are a very solid team. So Graham's
100%.
Kind of makes sense.
For sure. If he doesn't go Cowboys, I think the Steelers are a good fit for him. TJ Watt, you got Fitzpatrick. Plus, him and MIT have been playing together for years. I think he'd love to be in that division.
Yeah, I mean, just MIT and Coop alone, I think they all kind of played together even before SML. So that would definitely be a division he would enjoy, I think.
For sure.
And then at 22, two-step. I never know what two-step's thinking. I went with the Chargers just because I thought they were best available at that point, and maybe that's what he picks based on. I couldn't tell you. I think he's a Cowboys fan, but other than that, I couldn't tell you what he's thinking with a team. I've seen him be the Bengals and the Vikings now, so and the Falcons. So kind of all three different.
Yeah, and that's your reasoning for the Cowboy. Sorry, for who'd you have him taking? Chargers is the same reason why I picked the Bengals. At that point, they're the best. To me, they're the best team left. So That's why I had him going to Cincinnati.
All right. So for this mock draft, and I don't know if this is going to stand, but we left Monty in here. Um, I went with the Giants for Monty. I thought they were kind of like the Bengals were coming into this past cycle, where you've got a really good running back, you've got some really good pieces at wide receiver. I don't think you have a Jamar Chase, but Kadarius Toney. You've got guys they drafted a rookie wide receiver, and I think Monty, he plays offense well enough that it doesn't matter who his quarterback is. He's going to get him the superstar and X factor and whatever. He's one of those guys that has no problem developing a quarterback. The defense not great, but at this point where you're picking, there's not a ton of great teams anyway, and I think the Giants would be a good fit for him because he could get Daniel Jones, who's got 88 speed. Um, so he could end up turning him into an absolute monster when he gets those passing numbers up.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, this was the hardest pick for me uh, because Monty he's such a wild card to me. At this point, I don't really like a lot of the options left.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with him going to Broncos just because Russell Wilson. They have some young pieces on defense. Their defense, I really don't like this Broncos team. I think they're by far and away the least talented team in that division.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just the fact that he's got Russell Wilson to start, I don't know, like I don't really like this pick for Monty, but that's why I had him going there.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it's tough. I mean, where he's picking too. We're talking about the 23rd pick. Not a ton of teams. Um,
Yeah.
I think Monty is a guy that, especially now we know what his schedule's gonna be like. If he does stick around, he's not gonna be necessarily the most active in trading or anything outside of games, more than likely. So a team like the Broncos that already have your quarterback and kind of already built, you just developing them. That might actually be a really good pick for him. 24, we've got Noel. Looking at the way this played out, the two best quarterbacks I saw were going to be Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. You have Stafford down there, probably going to be a superstar in the Rams, but for me, it was Brady and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson with a little more mobility and a lot less years. I think he's going to stick around longer. So I got Noel taking the Broncos. I think, like we talked about earlier, number one priority for Noel has to be get a quarterback. And I think seeing a superstar like Russell Wilson on the board, I think that's where he goes is Denver.
Yeah, that's a good. I haven't taken the Falcons, and I think I just said that I think Broncos were the best team on the. This Falcons team is really good.
Yeah.
I can see Monty maybe going to the Falcons now. I should probably flip flop those picks, but the reason why I took Noel to the Falcons is I think he has the Falcons in one of his other leagues.
Okay.
Because I always see him on Twitch with the Falcons. So he's familiar with that roster. You've already outlined their draft picks. They got that young quarterback.
Yep.
He can probably Noel can probably develop him. You know, if he can hit those yardage numbers, it's hard to do that when you're throwing 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. But who knows? Who knows? That's why that was my reasoning for the Falcons there, just familiarity and the young pieces.
Yeah, I think the Falcons definitely could be in play there. He said if he doesn't feel comfortable with Wilson or Brady being that they're old and may retire, the next best thing and really the opposite of that is to get a good rookie quarterback and you develop them and don't have to worry about drafting one and hitting on it if you're going to know what Ritter is right from the get-go. And right. I think he could be a good piece as well. All right, so at 25, it looks like we've got Colts. Colts kind of a wild card. I went with the Bucs, best team available. Probably not the best fit for him because I think he's kind of in that mold of Noel where they like to throw to their running backs and very running back heavy for Colt. And he's not going to have really a running back or a tight end there in Tampa Bay, but it's the best all-around team. He'll figure out how to get a running back or a tight end, but he'll have a ready-made defense. And I think that's one of his biggest kind of downfalls from what I see is his defense is awful. So get a good defense and then build up your offense. And no better way to do that than with Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Godwin. You could trade one of those guys maybe, depending on how they start with their devs and maybe get that running back you need.
Yeah, the running back is the reason why I put him in New York with the Giants. Him with Saquon Barkley, to me was a no-brainer. The only other running back left on the board for me that's comparable is Henry, but I
Mhm.
don't see him going and chasing prime Foss. So that's why I sent him to New York.
Yeah, and a Jags fan maybe doesn't want to take a rival team either, so that makes sense. I do like the
Right.
Giants for him though. If they still had Evan Ingram, I'd like him even more, but uh, just Saquon Barkley is enough.
Yeah, but you
Uh,
can draft a tight end, right?
yeah, and it's not hard to draft a tight end. So
Absolutely.
26, we had Dump, and we went opposite directions here. Dump last time talked about wanting a building team. This cycle, he's talked a little bit about chasing Prime and taking the Texans. I don't think there's any way he goes and plays Prime and Faz. Um, but I think looking at what's left, and I'm not even sure how they're still here, but I haven't taken the Lions. Um, 98 speed, Jamison Williams. Aiden Hutchinson's going to start, probably superstar. They've got some pieces on defense. Jeffrey Okuda. There was another rookie, Pascal. And then you got Chark, Williams, Hawkinson, Swift. All you got to do is decide if you like golf or not, but you got 2 first-round picks. That offense is really good, even one of the best offensive lines in the game. So I think the Lions falling this far is probably a mistake by multiple guys ahead of him, but I think this could be the time he actually takes a rebuild team.
If the Lions are there, yeah, he'd be insane to pass them up. He also talked pre-blip about going to Lions, didn't
Yep.
he?
Yep, he did.
Um, but I have him going the Rams. I think him meeting Matt. He likes Matt. I think he looks at that division right now with Tiny and DW and thinks that's my division. So because he's just like Paulie, he will not chase the big boys. He will always go opposite. Um, and that Rams team, despite their lack of draft capital, is really good to start.
Yeah.
Good quarterback. Probably need a running back, but he's good enough to develop. Akers or whoever else they have there. You got Ramsey, you got Donald. Yeah,
Yeah, a
he
lot
could
of
do a lot
pieces
of
there.
damage with that team. Yeah.
And the other thing, I think people sometimes get too hung up on a first round pick that you're missing. Look, if you're dumping the Rams and especially in that division, what are you picking? 25? Does it really matter? Like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I feel like it's at some point those first round picks aren't really as valuable as maybe a top 10 pick. Um, you're talking about late first. It's I'd take Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald over having my late first. So I could see the Rams being a good pick for him. That means 27. We've got RD. Both gave him the Raiders.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious. Let's say the Raiders aren't there though. Who do you think would be a second team that maybe he's looking at? I know he said the Texans. Do you believe him that he would go after Prime and Faz?
100%. Yeah, I think he would for sure. He was definitely going with them last time,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Raiders were there, so he ended up going Raiders. But yeah, I think definitely he would chase it. I think he's a guy that's not afraid of competition,
Yeah.
and I think he would. And at that Texas team is kind of has picks. He's definitely going to need a quarterback, but RD's good enough to develop someone. He can go out and get a mid tier guy and develop him. He did it with Tua
Yeah.
previously with the Rams, so I don't think he shies away from anything there. And yeah, I think Texans for me.
Okay. I agree. I think he said he would chase Prime and I fully believed he was going to, and then Prime went Chiefs, so he was able to get his Raiders. But I think
Yeah,
if the Raiders are gone, I could see that. So 28, we've got QB. QB's gonna be happy to hear this, but I haven't taken the Seahawks. I have them fallen. I think the roster just needs too much work that 2 picks don't really make up for it. And so I've got QB taking them at 28. He's pretty much said that's the team he wants of the ones that realistically should fall.
yeah, they'd be a good fit for him. I haven't taken the Bears. I think I don't like that roster to start. I think we're probably going to see. We've seen flashes of the old QB that we've heard about.
Yeah.
He's beat Prime. He's beat some other good players. He was competitive. at the end of the cycle. So I think you get that team with some good solid pieces to start, um, and build them throughout the cycle. I think the Bears would be a good fit for him. Of the teams that I have remaining, I think that's the best fit for him.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you can't trade rookies in this league. So you couldn't trade Fields last year. This year, you come into the cycle, if you don't really care for Fields or you're not too worried about a quarterback, I'm just going to say, if I have the Jets, I'm more than willing to trade Zach Wilson plus something uh, for Justin Fields. So the Bears
He
might
did,
not be as unappealing as some people think.
absolutely, and he did mention that in chat just a day or two
Yeah.
ago about if I go Bears, Fields could be on the table if you go Jets. So why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it right now. I'm absolutely interested in Fields. So whoever goes Bears, will definitely be in contact, unless of course you
There
don't
we
plan on
go.
trading Fields. But then 29 is Gouda. I've got Gouda taking the Bears just solely based off the fact that what's his name? QP. Just the other day said that he has inside sources, which I would assume is Gouda since they went to dinner. Uh, is eyeing up the Bears, and I'm gonna believe that. I don't think there's any reason to smoke screen at 29. So I think he's gonna take the Bears if they're there.
Maybe a good fit for him too. Fields is kind of like Trey Lance, I guess, mobile.
Yeah.
So he's familiar with that kind of quarterback. I haven't taken the Vikings. Um, Truth be told, I hate the Vikings this year. I think they're the worst team. That defense is really old.
Yeah.
Not a lot of pieces on offense outside of Jefferson and Cook. Um, but I think Gouda is a good enough player to do well there, and I think he'll be competitive in that division. I think that's a really interesting division if it shapes up the way I have it with Rice, Move, Gouda, and QB.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll have different division winners almost every season there. I could see everyone taking a division there at one point. So I think he would do well with the Vikings.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I do think, kind of like you said, I think they're just kind of so old on defense that it's tough. And the Vikings kind of fall into that category. We talked earlier about having a team having two quarterbacks is great. They're kind of the 49ers and the Vikings fall into sort of an opposite kind of effect where they have two quarterbacks, but one is just overpaid and not good, and you're forced to use the other guy. I think if you're the Vikings, I don't know if you really want to use Kirk Cousins, and he's
Right.
going to cost you an arm and a leg. And then if you're the 49ers, assuming they still have him, Jimmy Garoppolo is costing you a bunch, and Trey Lance is going to be the guy there. So you've got two, but you don't have one that anyone else wants, and that's the problem. So you're just
Yeah,
paying for two.
and just maybe you can roll out Mond and struggle for a season, or go out and get you know another kind of just older. Maybe you go out and get Baker Mayfield,
Yeah,
right? And then now you're okay at quarterback right away.
yeah, definitely. I mean, there's half this list probably could use a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. So definitely be interesting to see what they do. Um, Next one's 30. I don't have a ton of experience with Biz, but from what I've heard, he really likes to throw to his halfback. So with the Vikings still on the board and Dalvin Cook there, to me, this was an easy choice. I mean, we're talking three teams left. I had the Vikings, Rams, and Texans. If you like to throw to your halfback, looking at the rest of those teams, the Vikings are the easy choice, getting Dalvin Cook in open space. And so I went with the Vikings there.
Yeah, I for the same reasons I went Titans because they were still on my board. He's got Derrick Henry, so he's the Browns in primer.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got Chubb, so he's familiar with freight train. Uh, Henry can catch. Tanny can't really throw, so he fits throwing to the halfback. So, but they also have that rookie quarterback too, right?
Yeah,
They got
Malik Willis.
yeah. So he could you could start off building him too. So, um, for the same reason for halfbacks, I went Titans for him.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And another team that, you can keep Malik Willis and trade away Tannehill, or you do the opposite in season 2.
Yep.
So, and Malik Willis, you got to think with that 2 speed, you're going to be able to get something for him, even if he doesn't end up good. We've seen Daniel Sears traded twice, both for first-round picks, and he was god-awful. So
yeah.
And then we have our 2 replacements. I'm going to open both of these up so we can see both, because we don't know anything about who these even are right now.
Right.
I've got them Rams and then Texans, just because I had Rams as the better team going into the draft. So Rams 31, Texans 32. Texans, I suppose, could be up there. It just depends who we get in there and what their priorities are, because if they want to build a team, the Texans are about as empty and clean slate as you can possibly get. So somebody may value that over the Rams, that are more of a win now team.
Yeah, I had Patriots and Texans. Patriots, I think Patriots are better than Vikings, but I think you being in that division shy some people away there. And Patriots don't have J.C. Jackson. Mac Jones he's better than he was to start this year, but I don't really like a lot on that team, to be quite honest with you. And Texans are just Texans.
All right, so that's our mock draft. We hit our 32 right around an hour, so we'll see how this works out. I'll bet we get at least, I would bet 10 correct.
I'd be happy with 10. Yeah.
Last cycle, I did the last 2 cycles. Actually, I've done the mock draft challenge where everybody fills out their sheets, and I think both times the winners were right around 12, 13. I would bet we've got probably 10 right here.
I'd be happy with that number.
Now, maybe that's 10 between the 2 of us added up, but either way, we're going to get 10, and we'll see how it works out. But thanks for being on. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more mock drafts between now and our September 2nd team draft, so almost a month away.
Man, it feels like forever.
It's going to take forever, but it'll be fun in between. So thanks for watching, guys. Man.